It completely changes when you retire because all of a sudden, now you have to set your own schedule. You have to make those decisions of what you're going to do. You can't just sit around at the age of 40 years old and play golf every single day, although I tried it for 1 year. And it quickly, you find out that, it's nice to be active. And I think if you are active, it keeps you younger. We came from a really conservative family. I remember in 1978, I was making $24 a week playing junior hockey in Sault Ste. Marie, where I opened my first TD bank account in Sault Ste. Marie in 1978, $24. And
that's big money.
back then it was. And then so in June when I signed in WHA, obviously, I got a tremendous signing bonus. I had a $250,000 signing bonus, and back in those days was a huge amount of money. And I remember, like every typical 17-year-old, first thing I was going to do was buy a car. So I remember I was flying from Indianapolis to Vancouver to do a press conference, and my dad was leaving Indianapolis. He was coming home because he had to go back to work. And I remember saying, as I always said, "Can I borrow $20?" And when I asked him if I could borrow $20, he handed me a $100 bill, and he said, "I know you'll pay me back now." So I had $100, first time I ever had $100 on me. And so I said, "I'm going to buy this car. I want to buy a car." And he said, "Okay." And he wrote me a check for $5,000, and he said, "Go get whatever you want." So I got a used Trans Am for $3,800, I believe. So I guess the moral of the story was he taught me from a young age to be really conservative, and that's the way I sort of lived my whole life. From my point of view, I was never, and it's probably from my parents, my mom and dad were never overspenders. They were never outlandish. I mean, my goodness, when I was 10, my dad was borrowing $10 from his mother so he could buy my hockey skates for the upcoming season. So, we came from a close family, but we didn't come from a wealthy family by any means. And so I think you learn that hard work and the effort you put in to not be a risk taker. And so I've always sort of lived that way. I'm not a flamboyant guy, and I'm not a kind of guy that needs to have a lot of cars or buy a lot of things to make myself feel good. So I've always stayed conservative, and I live the same way today. I enjoy driving the car that I drive, and I don't drive a $100,000 car. I love my car, and it's fun, and that's what I drive. And my kids kind of laugh at me, but that's what I enjoy.
You still don't have the Trans, do you?
No. No, I don't.
You say, wow, you really are conservative.
My favorite car is I have a '61 Cadillac because I always used to tease my wife that when I'm 50 years old, I want a Cadillac, and so she bought me for my 50th birthday a '61 Cadillac. So my kids at one point in time said they'd never get in it. Now they enjoy driving it more than I do. I've never professed myself to be this entrepreneur. My grandfather always taught me when he was alive, and I was 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. If you have $2,000 in the bank, you buy a $1,800 car. You don't buy a $5,000 car. You don't go and borrow and leverage. So I've never borrowed, and I never leveraged myself to try to turn $1 into $10. And I think entrepreneurs that know what they're doing or think they know what they're doing, that's sort of their thing. They love to leverage, and they love to borrow, and they want to build and keep moving on. And you see guys that are very wealthy, and then they lose it and they come back, but that's their life, and that's what they enjoy. From my point of view, I've never been a leveraged person. I've never been somebody that went out and borrowed money to try to double or triple that investment. And so from my point of view, the biggest thing I learned from him was that I never leveraged myself. I'm a big guy in 000 muni bonds. I just like to keep my money in the bank. I'm not a big risk taker. I found in real estate, I'm not a guy that goes and buys office buildings, or I don't go and invest. I've found that my best real estate investments have been because I loved what I was buying. So anything that I've gone out and invested in as far as property or a house, it's because as a family we loved it and wanted to have it and wanted to build it. And so from that point of view, just basically keeping my money in the bank and the houses I live in, that's really at this point in time what I'm doing. I've done a little bit through Money Manager. I was with Northern Trust back in the mid-'80s, and still to this day have some dollars put away with them. But again, very conservative from that point of view, because I don't know anything about the stock market, and I don't profess to know. I'm a member of a beautiful golf club in LA called Sherwood Country Club. I've been there since 1988. And the one rule that I've always had is that I never do business with anybody who's a member of our golf club. And I've seen too many kids who are caddies there, employees who work in the golf shop or in the grill, that people will come in and say, I have this great stock or this great investment, and they take the $5,000 or $10,000 that they've saved up, they put it in, and all of a sudden it's down to zero. So I don't know anything about it, so I stay away from things I don't know anything about. I have too much respect for people who know what they're doing. The things and the luxuries that my kids have, obviously, you know, I didn't have. I mean, we slept 4 boys in 1 bedroom. My kids, you know, they never had that. And so it is trickier because at the end of the day, you know, we do travel a lot, and we get to go places that I never did when I was 12 or 14 years old. But the biggest thing that we preach our kids, and this might sound corny, but the biggest thing we preach them is respect. And every child, whether you're wealthy or not wealthy, can say, please, thank you, and excuse me. And, you know, to a man, the proudest thing that you can have as a parent is when other parents come up to you and say, you know, your daughter was so polite, or your son was over and he's so polite. And I think that through that, they learn about dedication, and they learn about respect, and they learn about what it's like to have money and not have money. So, you know what, right from a young age, you just start talking about life in general. And I think my kids understand, they look around, I think they realize how fortunate they are. And yet they're very grounded. And I'm very proud of the fact that, you know, money doesn't drive any one of them. They're good kids. Just be very conservative. You know, there's nothing wrong with putting your money in the bank. And I'm a big believer that there's only a few guys out there that are very, very smart and intelligent that can turn $10 into $100 into $1 million. Most people are hardworking, middle income people. Just be conservative, take care of your family, always believe that you're going to be able to take care of your kids and your wife and all that. So my advice is just be very conservative.